Welcome to another edition of For the Health of It. I'm your host, Corian K-Pad Paget, and today I have with me a Gulf Coast native, a former, well, I don't know if he's the former, I don't know if he loses the title or not, but pound for pound, pound for pound, world's strongest man, Richard Hawthorne. Richard, how you doing, sir?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on, y'all.
We appreciate you. So I already mentioned it. So how does that work? Does that title stay with you or?
Well, what it is I was named the first, or I was the first person to ever lift 11 times my body weight in powerlifting raw. Okay. What raw means in powerlifting is that you just have actually classic raw, just belt, and I wore knee wraps. But to say I was the first in history for anybody ever to hit 11 times body weight, that's just strictly getting the total amount of weight that's divided up into three movements: squat, bench, and deadlift. You know, you get that total, and then you divide your body weight to that number. It's been, I know it's probably one other person that I know for a fact that has done that, but the number as far as times body weight has been, I have had the highest divided number. That was in 2013. There could have been somebody. I'm not sure, but as of then and to this day, I believe I still have that highest coefficient number.
Okay. Hey, so talk to me about that, man. Talk to me a little bit about your journey into powerlifting, because you're not 40 yet, right? You're what, 36?
37.
37. Okay. So you're a couple years older than me. You went to St. Martin, correct?
That's correct.
Good deal. Good deal. So how did you get started into not bodybuilding? How did you get started into powerlifting?
Well, biggest thing is my ninth grade year. Going into my ninth grade year, they have powerlifting in St. Martin, and I was new to it. My eighth grade year and seventh grade year, yes, I was introduced into lifting. But it was just, field house type stuff, you know what I mean? Everybody want to play football, you know what I mean? So you got to be in the weight room. But my ninth grade year, they needed a 114er, okay? And they didn't have one. And one of my good friends and his brother stayed in the neighborhood with me. And it was like, hey, we're lacking a 114er. Would you be interested? And I was like kind of hesitant, and it was like, man, you're light, you'll be great at it. So they boosted my head up, you know what I mean? And I decided to do it. And the first meet that I had, I didn't have anybody to compete against. Obviously if they was looking for a 114er, in St. Martin, obviously it was a weight class that wasn't as predominant, in that region. You see what I'm saying? So going into regionals for powerlifting, it was just me. So I got to lift, whatever I did. Actually, it was one other person. But I got to lift, and I won it. And then the second meet, because there's only 3 competitions that whole year,
Right.
in powerlifting. So you have regionals, you have South State, and you have state.
That's crazy.
Yeah, all right. So South State came along, and there were 2 other people, I lifted in it, and it was a little closer, but I pulled it off. And then came state, my ninth grade year, I got up there and it was a full roster. Like, I'm like, okay, I got competition, you know what I mean? So looking, and it was I want to say eight competitors. Um, um, it was pretty intense. It was the first time that I had to worry about, obviously, because I only had two competitions before that. I had to worry about what other people were doing. Okay, and typically, still then, and still to this day, I never think about what the other people doing. But since it was my first meet of real competition, it had me, wondering, But when it was all said and done with, or before it was all said and done with, it came down to the last lift. I was down X amount of weight, and I had to pull a certain amount of weight to tie. Okay. And in powerlifting, when you're the lightest person
Mm-hmm.
and you tie the actual weight of somebody who weighs heavier than you, then
You
you're the
win.
winner.
Right.
So I pulled whatever I needed to pull. I can't remember. I was 114, so I was probably somewhere around 250 and above. I want to say it was between 250 and 315. Okay, maybe 275. I can't remember. It was a long time ago, but I actually pulled it off. It was a long, fault lift, and I pulled it off, and it started from there. I was hooked. Okay, I was hooked because of the simple fact that, one, it was all on me. One, because it was something new, and it came to me a little bit naturally. Two is because it was, like I said at first, it's on me. I realized whatever I put into this, whether my success or failure, it's on me. Okay. I'm the person that show up to work out, whatever. So if I'm gonna do this, I don't wanna lose. So I'm gonna do whatever it takes. And I know it's in my hands. So um I was stuck then. To say this, after I won that meet, literally I remember sitting there or standing there with my coach in front of me and another one of my teammates on the side of me, and they was talking, and I was kind of zoned out,
Right.
and I can hear them. I can hear them talk, and they was excited, about my win and about how we did as the few lifters that got to advance the state, how we did as a whole, and I was zoned out, and then I looked up at both of them. And I said at that moment in ninth grade that I was going to become the pound for pound strongest person in the world. 13 years prior to me actually achieving it.
Nice. That's what's up, man. That is what's up. So let's fast forward uh, through high school. Are you playing any other sports before your senior year, or are you just strictly all powerlifting now?
So I was an athlete because of the neighborhood I grew up in. We played sports all day, every day. So we stayed outside. So in school, I wanted to play every sport. I've played every big um, big league sport as far as baseball, football, basketball. But through high school or junior high to my 10th grade year, I played football, basketball, ran track, and powerlifting.
Okay.
My 10th After my 10th grade year, I decided, okay, I'm not playing anything else. This is what I want. This is what I love. I'm sticking with powerlifting. So my 11th and 12th grade year, that's all I did.
Good deal. Good deal. So you won state your ninth grade year, correct?
Yes.
Did you win your 10th and did you win all throughout?
So I went my 10th grade year, one state, 11th grade year, one state, and um, my 12th grade, I was going to win state, but actually I got DQ'd. It's an interesting story. Well, not that interesting, but in high school, they have what is called briefs.
Right.
Okay. Um, this was, you have your suit, and then you have your belt, and you have what are called briefs. They don't allow anything longer than what whitey tighties are, you know. And it was an honest mistake, and I forgot. Um, so I was getting ready to actually, it was going to be an all-time record. It was going to be a 500 pound squat at 132 in high school, and they noticed it, and they gave me 5 minutes. They gave me 5 minutes to get out my suit, change, and be back up. Not even that, 3 minutes. Get out my suit, take those briefs off, put something else back on, and put on my suit. Which, if anybody is familiar with
It takes
geared
5 minutes
lifting,
just to get it off.
yeah, exactly. So at that point, I was like, I'm just going to squat. You know what I mean? I know it's going to get DQ'd because it was no use, you know. Um, and did my squat. I did it, but of course it didn't count, and then it just went from there. Got DQ'd for that competition, but it is what it is, you know.
Right.
Um, I left with 3 years state champion, and still holds all-time records to this day. Um, I've been training kids in powerlifting for a while, in high school powerlifting for a while, and last year, um, one one kid broke my squat record.
Nice.
Um, um, and it was exciting to see. A lot of people get mad with stuff like that, but that just shows growth. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
that's something to admire. You know what I mean? Because all records will be broken, no matter what. Somebody can hit 2,000 pounds, in something, and as soon as they do it, everybody mind and will sees it and be like, oh, it's possible. And then that record just,
That-
you know what I mean? So records will constantly go up. It's going to get crazier and crazier. But it was amazing to see that squat record that I had, all-time squat record that I had, be broken,
Right.
But I still hold pretty much all those for the high school.
Okay. So let's talk about you seem like a naturally strong or naturally athletic guy. Do you think that's genetics, or talk to me about it?
It's environment.
Okay.
Like my neighbor, like I talked about my neighborhood briefly. Um, I'm a runt. Everybody know.
Right.
I'm still to this day. I'm 37. I'm 5'3", 135 pounds. Fluctuating between 130 and 135. The neighborhood that I grew up in, Cedar Grove, over in St. Martin, we have a neighborhood park. Okay, we had a neighborhood park, and with this neighborhood park, we had abundance of kids that was out there every day, all day, competing. So I'm a runt. Not only that I was a runt, I was born in '83. So the age range of kids were from 8 to 18. And I was one of the youngest, okay? And they always competed, and I remember strictly me and my cousin were very competitive and wanted to play with all the older kids. So at a very young age, I learned how to troubleshoot. So in order for me to play with them, I had to realize I'm not as tall as them, I'm not as big as them, and I'm not as fast as them.
Mm-hmm.
What can I do to actually play and compete? But not only compete, but find something that I'm better at in each individual sport or whatever, playing manhunt or whatever, that I can figure out that I can not only compete but be better than them. And from growing in that environment from age 8 all the way up to 18, that's how I looked at everything. I troubleshooted. So what that actually made me do naturally, which I didn't understand then, was the fact that in powerlifting, this is why I'm so good at powerlifting, is when I'm looking at something, I'm a lines, angles, leverage guy. So I'm looking in the means of trigonometry and physics. So not understanding that at that time, but that's what I do. I assess things and I'm looking for leverages. How can I do this better using less energy?
Right.
And that stuck with me. Not only that aspect, but the aspect of when I was playing with them, you think they let up on me? No.
Of course
they came and they roughed me up, just because, when you're an older person and you feel forced in a way, or somebody do pick the younger person, they feel forced playing with somebody younger, you know what I mean? So they'll be like, okay, well, you want to play, we're going to show you how we play. We're going to play. So that mindset of how I looked at things and approached things, but also, that mindset of, you want to play, you're going to have to go through the fire, you know what I mean? And I'm saying, okay, you can do it, I can do it, and I'm going to show you. So that just developed me as a person as I grew up from my neighborhood.
Okay. So Austin doesn't know about this, man, but being from the coast, I'm from Biloxi, but there seems to be a little bit of beef between D'Iberville and St. Martin.
Okay.
You ever experienced anything? You said you're from Cedar Grove.
Well,
what you know about that Forest Cove?
Forest Cove? Y'all was all right. Y'all was all right.
Well, I'm from the east side. I'm from Biloxi.
Okay. Well, yeah, you're right. You're right. Well, there was always competitiveness between. Of course, it was a rival, but it was intense. It was real intense a little bit before my time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But it was still a hard when it was on the field. Playing the game, it was still a hard rival. You know what I mean? But when it came to, like with not with all schools, because, Biloxi and Gulfport, it's still rough. You know what I mean?
True.
That's a real rough rival. You know what I mean? Real true. It gets, gets to that point sometimes. But to tell you to give a dynamic of D'Iberville St. Martin, St. Martin always had pure athletes. I mean, when it comes to talent and it comes to grit, St. Martin always had it. D'Iberville always had great coaching.
Gotcha.
So it was always that, okay? So because you can look at it in the sports era. Now, when it came to like things like football and baseball at the time, St. Martin always been a pretty good baseball, but football, baseball, like they always did better as teams because they had great coaching. Okay. But when it came to things like track, tennis, cross country, powerlifting, that's where the individual athlete, because they were ready and they was willing to work. But not only that, it was more so, I put in what I need to put in, and then we work collectively. Even though it was, individually, we still worked as a group, because coaches in track and things like that, they coach, but they really don't coach in high school. You know what I mean?
I know.
So we came together great because we were individuals who wanted to win. Can y'all still see me?
Yeah.
Okay. I gotta charge my phone real quick. But we were great individually and we understood what we wanted. Okay. So that's how that happened. So the rivalry between us and D'Iberville, which you can see, we had great athletes, but we coaches wasn't as up to par. So some decisions, and not saying that all our coaches we had weren't great. You know, I mean, it wasn't good. We had a great coach, which I don't know if you remember the name because I think he went to Biloxi, was Kelly Kazi. He was a great coach, and that was the only great football coach that I know St. Martin has ever had. He was a great coach, and we had great years with him. But that was the difference. That's how you know Yaville St. Martin as far as rivalry, you know, went.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So, now that you're out of high school at this point in the storyline, what happens in between 2003 and 2013? How do you go from being best in the state to the best in the world?
Are you ready for this?
Oh yeah.
So
Also, if you can go into finances of it, how are you financing yourself?
Okay, I'll go into that. But let's get this little story first. So 2003, I graduated, um, and I continue wanted to do powerlifting. Um, obviously, you know that's okay with your family and your friends. It's looked upon as like, he out of high school, he still can powerlift. Before I got out of high school, I was already doing national, international meets.
Gotcha.
I had a couple world records already. Um, uh, in my senior year, I got world record. But after high school, I did my first full meet of doing all three in Georgia, and um, as a teenager, I qualified um, for a competition that's called the WPO. At that point, WPO was a show, so the best of the best were allowed. You had to qualify.
That's the West Side
Um,
Barbell guys and all them, right?
no, they competed there heavily, but WPO was. I mean, it was yeah, it was worldwide. So you had everybody. You had Germans, Russians, you had Australians. Everybody.
Gotcha.
Um, but it was a small group. Um, it was an honor to be able to lift in there, but to even think that I was going to win would be crazy because not only that I'm one of the youngest, and you'll notice the pattern, but not only that I was the youngest, I was one of the lightest. And the way they set those competitions up is they group weight classes. So
Mhm.
from 132 to 165. So it's 132, 148 to 165. So whoever came out with the highest total wins. If you break world records, you get highest total wins, and you win money, all that, belt, whatever. And then if you break any all-time world records, you win some money as well. So for every all-time world record, I think it was $1,000 at the time. But so that's what I did right off. I was able to getting to that. I did that my 2003, 2004, the beginning of 2005. So 2005, 2000. Well, every March they have the Arnold Classic.
Right.
Okay, it's the first weekend. It's the first weekend in March, and that's actually the ending of. At that point, now it's no season, but at that point it was the ending of powerlifting. Okay, that season. 2005, that's where the Arnold Classic, you have the finals of the WPO. So you have a qualifier, which is the organization was APF. Then you go to the semifinals, okay, which was usually held at a I can't even think of it. A big show, which was the semifinals for the WPO, and then you have the finals.
Right.
Okay, at the Arnold Classic. And I did that meet, and that was 2005. After I did that meet, I had a magazine. I had a magazine interview,
Mm-hmm.
and this is significant later on in the story. But in that interview, they said they went over, what I wanted to do for the coming up competition, WPO competition, which was going to happen in November. What I was expecting to do, what I was getting ready to do, and at that point, this was equipment, and I advanced pretty a good bit. But not only that, I had a suit. Which, you familiar with the Enzer suit, the canvas suit?
Okay.
Are you
Not at
okay?
all.
So this is okay. So it's a heavy duty suit. You know what I mean? But in training in it, I hit a 722 squat for a double.
Wow.
So in training, I'm thinking, okay, I did this for a double. This is at 132 pounds. So in training, I hit a double. So they asked me what I'm expecting. So I was like, I'm taking the record. I'm going to I did 722. So easily I'm looking at 700. Okay. I'm like, expect for me to come out and break this all-time world record. You know what I mean? So I was looking for that. And then it was like, okay, for the last question, it's like, what do you see yourself in 5 years? And I said, I see myself having a gym in 5 years. And that was it. All right. Mind you, again, this is 2005.
Right.
Come August, that's when Katrina hit.
Trina hit.
August, yep, August 28th or 29th, something like that.
Something like that.
So August 28th, 29th, Katrina hit. At that point, right after that interview, right before the interview, I found out that my daughter's mom was pregnant. So
Gotcha.
Katrina hit, lost both my jobs because all I was doing at the time was working both my jobs and training.
Well, and what were you doing for your jobs at the time?
I worked at Winn-Dixie,
Okay.
and I did everything at Winn-Dixie. And I worked at Sicily's.
Gotcha.
Okay, Sicily's Pizza.
On
What's that?
over there.
Yeah, on Lemoyne. Yeah, over there on Lemoyne. So lost both my jobs, and then so not 11 days, so about 12 days after Katrina, my daughter was born. So new dad, no jobs, everything is in turmoil, and my daughter was born in a half-open hospital.
Wow.
So scared, terrified, and at that point, I immediately, when my daughter was born, the next day, I secured a job down at the Bow rebuilding. Well, first gutting it out and, busting out all the sheetrock, getting all, I mean, there was some bodies and stuff like that down there, but it was a total mess. But so I left Biloxi Regional the next day, walked down the street to the Bow and started working. And that was a 16-hour job, So from that point on, in between that point, 2005 to 2000 and early 2000, late 2007, early 2008,
Okay.
I was going in and out of jobs. And this is an interesting point, and it's because I got to look back at, how everything played out. But when I lost that Bow job, when it was done, okay, that contract was done. I lost it. They didn't need anybody anymore. It took me 2 months to find another job.
Mm.
If I can remember, I think that was a security job on base at the hospital. Had that job for a few months, lost that job due to higher bidder contracts. And that's how, that's how
System
the
work.
bases work. Yeah. Lost that job. Um, and it took me 4 months. I want to say it was 4 months to find another job. I can't remember what job that was, but I lost that job. And in between that last job, it took me 8 months to find a job. That it was just
Wow.
it was hard. But um, after that, I think it was either I was working at a casino, room service, or something, and I switched. Um, I made a few switches. Went from one casino to another casino, and then eventually I got to start training at eFitness.
Gotcha.
Um, Mind you, from 2005 and 2000 and I want to say early 2009, early 2008, I wasn't working out at all because I had a new family. I had to bust my butt.
Right.
Um, and that was more important. Even though it was still in me and I wanted to do it, I just didn't have the time. Um, but um, I eventually got to start back training, and when I started back training at this gym, people started to hearing, oh, that's such and such, and he did this or that, and they approached me was like, oh, why don't you train here? So I started training there. I want to say that was 2000 and that was late 2008
Mm-hmm.
or late 2008 when I started training there, and trained for a competition. Did my first competition in forever, and I actually came back and broke my last deadlift um, world record. You
Gotcha.
know, I trained for a good solid. Um, I don't know. I think it was probably 6 months, and
Okay.
came back and it was still in me. I still had the fire. It's not a physical thing, and we'll get into that later. But it's not a physical thing. It's a mental thing of really what you want, and I already had the upbringing and that instilled in what I wanted. So that happened. Eventually, I continued to train at eFitness as a personal trainer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You good?
I plugged up the phone, but it wasn't plugged up in the. Can you see me? It
Yes.
wasn't plugged up in the socket. Um, so at that point, um, I was training as a personal trainer, and then it was called Preezy Speed School. I
Yeah.
started training. Yeah. So I started training athletes because it was right up my alley because I was already good at angles, teaching people how to run and things like that. So it was just that was natural to me, the angles and understanding all that. So I started training there, and as I was training there and working out at eFitness, um, the eFitness just wasn't conducive anymore. They had some equipment problems. The last day that I was there, me and my partner was training, and one of the isolated benches that does the decline, I was lifting, doing decline benches, and that decline actually collapsed on me while I had 225 on the bar. If that was anybody else, they would have been seriously hurt.
Wow.
But that was the last day, and that was that was um, that was when me and my partner started looking for spaces. And in late 2010, I had my gym, which was 5 years, legitimately 5 years from when they ask me, you know, where do I see myself in 5 years? So
Yeah.
we opened up a little dry dock storage. It was 800 square feet. At that time, I had left. In between that time, I had left the gym as far as work wise, and I was a bartender, and I was making some mad money. I was slinging drinks, you know what I mean? And I saved up some money, and I started filling the gym up with equipment. You know, it was 800 square feet, and then you know people wanted to lift around me, wanted to be around me, and experience some of the things that I picked up in my experience, and it started as that 800 square feet went to 1,600 square feet, went from 1,600 square feet to 2,400 in that dry dock storage. And then um, um, 5 years later in that spot, I was blessed to um, somebody to invest in me and put some of my money in to um, to develop and create what I had over here in Diaville, Southern Elite, as everybody know it as of now.
Right.
You know, it's 22,000 square feet.
Nice, nice, nice. So I'm gonna stop you right here, Rich. We're gonna end part 1 right here, and we're gonna pick up with part 2.